After last night, it's two races, two different faces in a Supercross victory lane. The four-wheel flyers of the Mickey Thompson Stadium Series kicked off another season in California last night with the usual mayhem. And 1991 was a banner year for the American Speed Association. We'll look back and meet its champion, Mike Eddy. This is TNN Motorsports Magazine Afternoon Edition for January 19th, 1992. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mark Allen, sitting in for Pat Patterson. Thanks for joining us. Ice racing and Arizona don't seem to go together, but one of the richest indoor races of the year was contested there last night. Here with that and the latest AMA Supercross races, Neil Kassabaum.
Take a 500cc engine, mount that to a hand-built bike with no brakes, put it on a hockey rink, and go. The best ice racers in the world competed for a $3,000 first prize last night in Tucson. Number 2, Pat Litt of Golden, Colorado, dominated the 8-lap main, hitting top speeds of 50 miles per hour. Litt took the win in under a minute. John Grant of Georgetown, California, placed second, and Newcastle, England's Martin Dixon was third. 40,000 Supercross fans filled the Houston Astrodome to watch round 2 of the 92 AMA Supercross Series. As a full field of riders blasted off into turn 1, 19-year-old Damon Bradshaw of Team Yamaha battled Kawasaki's Jeff Matasevich as last year's Camel Supercross champion Jean-Michel Bayle was bumped back into the pack to start the 20-lap main event dead last. Out of turn 2, Bradshaw took the lead and never looked back. Kawasaki teammates Mike Kudrowski and Jeff Ward battled for fourth, only to get involved with each other in a turn, knocking both out of a top 5 finish. Bradshaw continued with a comfortable lead as Bayle put on a charge from behind that had everyone's attention. He hounded last week's winner Mike LaRocco, took 5th, and continued to the front, running as high as 3rd. But on this night, no one had enough to catch Bradshaw, who took the checkers by a comfortable 12-second lead over second-place Guy Cooper. The Hondas of Bayle and Jeff Stanton finished 3rd and 4th. LaRocco held on to 5th. This is Neil Kassabaum reporting for TNN Motorsports Magazine.
So after 2 rounds of the 16-race Supercross Series, Damon Bradshaw is the early leader with Mike LaRocco second. Teammates Jeff Stanton and Jean-Michel Bayle are next, with Kawasaki's Jeff Ward 5th. The points chase is only just beginning for the Mickey Thompson Series. Jerry Garrett has our highlights.
New Zealand native Rod Millen has made quite a career for himself in international rallying. Now Millen is enjoying even greater success in the wild sport of stadium off-road racing. It's been a while, 3 years in fact, since one driver won both heat races and the feature in one evening. That's exactly what Millen did at Anaheim Stadium over the weekend. The lousy California economy notwithstanding, a near sellout crowd of 60,000 came out to watch the 92 season opener. And if the number of crashes is how a successful evening is measured, these fans got their money's worth. The competitors were involved in crash after crash. Each of the evening's 3 sport truck races were stopped and restarted several times to right tipped-over vehicles and to clean up debris. Although this is billed as a battleground among the world's mini pickup manufacturers, there's barely enough left of some vehicles to tell who was driving for whom. The only threat to Millen's sweep came in the second heat when Walker Evans was leading with 1 turn to go. But his old buddy Ivan Stewart spun Evans out, and Millen was able to slip past the tangle and go on to take the win. The feature race had so many crashes, Millen almost won it by default, even though he finished with 1 flat tire. The series resumes with round 2, a month from now in San Diego. Reporting from Anaheim, California, this is Jerry Garrett.
Coming up next, a season review of the ASA, a series that's definitely come a long way. Welcome back, everybody. The American Speed Association, we know today, began in 1973, and by any measure, last year was its best ever. Ralph Shaheen has this review.
The 1991 AC Delco Challenge Series got off to a soggy start as rain greeted the American Speed Association competitors at their season opener at Columbus, Ohio, forcing a one-week postponement. When the green flag finally fell, pole sitter Glenn Allen Jr. quickly established himself as the class of the field, taking his first ever ASA checkered flag. The rain followed the teams to Salem Speedway, forcing yet another postponement. Famous Indiana high banks once again produced a classic duel as Scott Hansen beat Bob Seneker to the line by 0.2 of a second, with Johnny Benson Jr. finishing third, taking over the points lead. The most shocking thing at this point was the fact that Mike Eddy, the 5-time ASA champ, had not been a factor in the first 2 races and was mired down in 18th place in the point standings. Eddy arrived at the flat Milwaukee Mile ready to end his slump. Nationwide's Pontiac roared to the front, claimed the win, and sent a reminder to the rest of the competition that it could never be counted out. Mike Eddy went from slump to win streak as his winning ways continued north of the border at Cayuga Speedway's Molson Export 300. The first night race of the season took place under the lights at Berlin Raceway in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Eddy's talent shined brightly that night as the win streak grew to 3. The Delco Voyager 250 at the Nashville Motor Raceway would be a historical day for the AC Delco Challenge Series and its loyal following of fans. For the first time in its 24-year history, an ASA race was shown live on national television. 3 of stock car racing's most seasoned veterans pulled out all their best tricks that day in a tremendous battle. Mike Eddy, Bob Seneker, and visiting star Darrell Waltrip fought a ferocious battle, with DW winning in front of his hometown fans. As the teams headed north once again, Johnny Benson Jr.'s name was atop the points. When the checkered flag fell at the Players Limited 500 at Calgary, Bob Seneker had not only won the most prestigious stock car race in Canada, but he had taken over the points lead. The AC Delco Challenge Series pulled into the Wisconsin State Fairgrounds for their second visit of the season. The Milwaukee track is a high-speed facility that can swallow you up in a hurry, as rookies Tim Fedewa, number 55, and Lee Farthington found out. Luckily, only the race cars were seriously injured. Fedewa, in fact, would go on to win Rookie of the Year. In Victory Lane, the winner's trophy once again was handed to Bob Seneker. By the time the season reached the midway point at I-70 Speedway outside of Kansas City, Seneker had stretched his win streak to 3 by adding Tri-City Speedway's trophy to his collection. Nothing, not even the high-speed high banks of I-70, seemed to be able to stop Seneker as he made it 4 in a row. The one thing that could stop Bob Seneker did. Mike Eddy won at Cayuga, Jennerstown, Pennsylvania, and Berlin Raceway. Not only had Eddy brought Seneker's win streak to a stop, but suddenly he was second in the points and turning the heat up. Scott Hansen finally broke the stranglehold on Victory Lane as he won at the quarter-mile Anderson Speedway in his Baker Racing Chevy. The half-mile Minnesota State Fair Speedway is only used 1 day a year for racing. It takes a lot of experience to even be competitive at the St. Paul facility. Experience is something Dick Trickle has a lot of, as he showed by winning the Labor Day event. The ASA visited the Oswego, New York Speedway for the first time in 5 years. Scott Hansen quickly figured the place out and stormed off to the largest margin of victory of the year at 11.3 seconds over Johnny Benson Jr. With 3 races left, it had become a 3-man battle for the title, with Scott Hansen and Mike Eddy chasing point leader Bob Seneker. The driver of the number 84 Chevy Lumina felt comfortable heading to the next stop at Winchester Speedway. And why shouldn't he have? He has won the famous Winchester 400 7 times. But when he needed it most, Bob Seneker's luck at Winchester ran out. A lost tire and a 15th place finish hurt Seneker in the points. A horrendous multi-car crash forced a 90-minute red flag period. Miraculously, all of the drivers survived. The delay, however, allowed Eddy to repair a broken rear end. Mike soldiered on to a 9th place finish and tightened up the points. Glenn Allen found Winchester to his liking and claimed his second victory. Hansen kept his title hopes alive by winning the pole and the race at Toledo. Seneker suffered an uncharacteristic engine failure and a 28th place finish, while Mike Eddy was second, capturing the points lead. Jennerstown was the site for the highly anticipated season finale. Although Mike Eddy only had to finish within 10 places of Seneker, he was not about to just cruise to the title. Instead, he won the race and the championship, a record-setting 6th ASA crown. Reporting for TNN Motorsports Magazine, I'm Ralph Shaheen.
And coming up in a moment, we'll talk with the president of ASA and the last year's champion. But first, let's take a look at last season's race attendance. The figures recently released by Goodyear show that despite the recession, overall attendance for major professional motorsports was up nearly 4%. Winston Cup, Kart, NHRA, and the World of Outlaws were all beneficiaries. Attendance at SCCA Trans Am events was down by 10%, but the series also lost one race in '91. The biggest loser of all was IMSA GTO, which was also down an event. ASA was the big winner with a whopping 52% increase. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. The increase in ASA popularity in 1991 made it a year to celebrate, and that's exactly what they did last night at the annual ASA banquet in Indianapolis. The 1992 schedule was revealed, and Mike Eddy was honored for the 6th time in his career as ASA champion. Tim Fido received the Rookie of the Year laurels. Now, presiding over last night's proceedings, ASA President Rex Robbins. We talked with him by satellite a bit earlier, and I first asked him why ASA had such a large gain in attendance.
I've got to give a lot of credit to the commitment by AC Delco and the support they gave us with their WD programs and their involvement. The television certainly didn't hurt any. That was a great boost to us, and I think things are starting to change for us up here.
Not to boost our own horn here for just a moment, but TNN did televise live 5 of your races this past
all
season.
5.
What did that do to you?
Well, all of a sudden, regardless of where we went to, people would walk up and they would comment that they saw the race last week on television. And people that you didn't imagine watched those events. All of a sudden, we had a nationwide audience as opposed to a regional audience from past races.
Now, what did that exposure do to the interest of potential competitors coming into ASA?
We have a lot of people coming in this year. We have nearly 60 cars at this time built. Our goal is to shoot for 80. We've got a lot of the people coming out of the midget ranks from as far away as Iowa. There's some ARCA drivers that plan to compete with us this year. There's been a lot of interest in the new car and competing with ASA in 1992.
Let's talk about that new car for just a second. That was essentially debuted to the media last fall. It'll be 4 inches narrower and 2 inches lower, looking a lot more stock. What's been the response from the competitors so far?
Well, real good, because you can build that car a lot easier now. That body goes together. It's an all-flanged fitted body. The center section is generic to all cars, so it makes the construction of the car a lot cheaper. And in the long run, will drive down the cost of owning and operating that race car.
Now, it's our understanding with the new schedule that's out that you're going to be going into Canada a bit more than before. Why the moves north of the border?
Well, we put a deal. We've been up there for 5 or 6 years now at Calgary, and probably 10 or 12 years at Cayuga. So we've always had an interest in Canada, but the Players Limited came along, and they're going to sponsor all the events in Canada next year, which would be 5, 2 at Calgary, 2 at Cayuga. And for the first time, the AC Delco Challenge Series and the Players Limited Cup will appear on a road course at Mosport. And then there will be a $100,000 point fund posted for those 5 events, plus the increase in the one here in the United States for the AC Delco Challenge Series, raising that point total to over $300,000, which is nearly over 100% increase from this year.
ASA President Rex Robbins. Now, of course, Mike Eddy is the 1991 champion, and I talked with him about, among other things, whether he's had time to savor his title given the work needed to change to the new car dimensions.
Well, really savoring the championship. Didn't really think too much about it till we got down here this weekend, and kind of all sunk in. You know, the whole 91 season's work is done, and come out on top, and it really makes the whole team feel good.
You know, Mike, we in the business take television for granted, but from your perspective, what did the live television do to help ASA last year?
Well, it got us into the national spotlight, which, of course, helps you attract the sponsors, and that's what it's all about in this racing game.
Now, you're the only man who's won the championship in 3 different decades. How has the series changed from the 70s when you won your first one?
Well, in the 70s, when we first started racing ASA, it was just a place to venture from your weekly racetrack to run a long-distance race. And over the years, it progressed into to the place to go race. I mean, we run all long races. The purses are up, and with AC Delco in the ASA series now, it's making the future look really good.
Now, we talked with Rex a few moments ago about the changes in the car for the 92 season. How much work is involved making that switchover?
Well, most of the ASA competitors are, you know, they build new cars every year anyhow, so the big switchover is really not that big a deal. Yeah, I think it'll really be great because the cars look nice now. You can look at them and relate to what kind of car it is. So I think it'll be real good for everybody involved.
What is this change going to do to costs and competition for 92?
Well, I believe it'll make the cars cheaper to run because, as Rex said before, they're got a generic center section, and which will keep the cost of everything down, the cost of the bodies and in the cars, and it'll just make the whole series better.
Very briefly, just a few moments left. Who are you most concerned about beating in 92?
Well, there's this guy up from Michigan, Bob Seneker. He's always tough, and he's one of the main competitors, and we enjoy competing against each other, and I'm sure we'll be rubbing on each other again next year.
And our congratulations to Mike Eddy. When we return, Kenny Bernstein reveals his strategy to win this year's NHRA Top Fuel title. But first, as we go to break, here's a look at the just-announced Winston Cup drivers for this year's International Race of Champions. Finished second in the NHRA Top Fuel points last season. He's testing this weekend in Arizona. And earlier I talked with him about a great second year in Top Fuel after a disappointing 1990.
Well, obviously after 1990 it was so disastrous anything would have been a plus in 91. So we took a year there to learn. It was a big learning curve for Dale Armstrong and the team to really mechanically make the car come around, and for me as a driver. But 1991, we hoped we would be better. We made a lot of major changes in the wintertime of 1990. Chassis change to the Swindle car and a lot of other changes that we felt to get more like everyone else, so to speak. And it paid off. It made things a lot better in 1991. And you know, we're always surprised when we do well because you don't know what's going to happen. You can hope as much as you want and think you've got it on paper, but sometimes it doesn't work out that way. But I really owe a lot to Dale Armstrong and the crew for doing a fantastic job from coming from a disastrous year back to almost winning a championship.
The $64,000 question, Kenny. What is it going to take to dethrone Joe Amato?
Well, that's a tough game. You know, Amato and Tim Richards, that's a fine race team, and they've won 4 world championships, and no one's ever done that in Top Fuel. They're very competitive people inside. I know Joe very well as a personal friend, and his desire and fire is still burning. So that's a tough thing to overcome with experience that they have in doing Top Fuel racing for so long. But we've got a good group with us, Dale and his crew, and Wes Cerny aboard now. Hopefully we've closed the gap, maybe that last little inch to dethrone Joe, but it won't be easy. And there's a couple other guys out here, too, that are going to be extremely hard, and that's Don Perdome and McCulloch and the Austin kid. I think all those are going to be good, but the man to beat is still Joe Amato, and that's who you're going to have to beat up and down the road.
What areas do you think you need to improve in yet to take the next step and move past Amato to the top of Top Fuel?
Well, the main thing you've got to be is consistent. Consistency is the name of the game. That's why we didn't win the championship last year, and honestly, he was more consistent than we were. We won 6 races, as you stated. Joe won 4, but he was more consistent on a day-to-day basis. And any motorsport, in fact, for that matter, any sport, whether it be football, baseball, or motorsport, consistency is what wins championships. So we have to get the consistency that he has, and hopefully a little more horsepower and the right time, we can make it all happen.
We had Ed McCulloch on the morning show. Of course, he's going Top Fuel racing this year. What advice would you have for him based on what you went through back in 1990?
Well, my first advice to Ed was a month or so ago is for him to get in the Top Fuel car. We'd like to have him over in the Top Fuel ranks. I thought he would enjoy it very much, and we're happy that he's over there. And Ed's a pro. He's been doing it a long, long time, a lot longer than I have, and it won't take him long to adapt to it at all, if any. And he's also got another big plus, and that is Lee Beard, the crew chief that's over there now. he's a winner. He's a world champion himself. He knows what it takes to win. That team will be very tough. They'll be at the top of the running the whole year long. So, you know, on one side, I'm happy Ed's over here. On the other, he'll be a tough competitor.
Kenny Bernstein, he's being a bit modest. He will be one of the forces this season. Coming up next Sunday morning at 11:30 Eastern on Motorsports Magazine, we'll bring you final testing results from Daytona for the 500. Plus, you'll meet IndyCar stars Rick Mears and Emerson Fittipaldi. And we'll talk with the brothers Bodine of Winston Cup Racing. Kenny Bernstein owns Brett's car. That's all the time we have for now. I'm Mark Allen, sitting in for Pat Patterson. Have a great week.
Guest of TNN Motorsports Magazine, stay at the luxurious Hyatt Charlotte at South Park, conveniently located in Charlotte's exclusive South Park district. Feel the Hyatt touch by calling 1-800-233-1234. Communications provided by Racing Radios, the official communications of NASCAR, CART, IMSA, NHRA, IHRA, and ARCA. And Corporate Image, the official supplier of sportswear for Motorsports Magazine, and with a complete line of NASCAR items. For a catalog or to order by phone, call 1-800-467-RACE.